I wanted Trump.
You wanted Trump?
Yep. There was no way in hell I wanted her out there. But now I don't know what would have been better.
What were you expecting?
I was expecting the lower cost of a lot of just your everyday living things and hoping that he would make things better for everybody in America because that's what we need. Groceries are already outrageous. And then we put the tariffs on across the seas or whatever, like China, all that. It just makes everything more expensive for everybody.
Jamie Basinger is the only person we met in eastern South Dakota who openly questioned her own political views. Most people we talked to said it was risky to talk about politics here, even as the effects of Trump's tariffs loomed over the agricultural economy in an area that voted for him by about 70%. Generally, opinions were divided between trust Trump's plan and how can you still like this guy.
Wait, so Becky, let me ask one thing. Are you in a politically mixed marriage?
Yeah, did you see the Joe Biden sign? Would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
Becky Hofer was not afraid to talk. She's a Democrat, and her husband is a conservative non-voter. She's a freight broker. Basically, if a company needs to ship bricks, she'll find you a flatbed truck. If you need to ship meat, she'll get you a refrigerated truck.
Ooh, you need the truck tomorrow? Can you guys, fork a pallet jack into the back of the trailer for him to pallet jack him to the front?
This gives her a window into real-time shifts in the economy.
Everybody's nervous. People are making different decisions for different reasons, but some of it's hesitation, some of it's actual price changes. Everybody just wants some stability right now.
And those shifts can be complex. She says China's retaliatory tariffs on American pork and beef could lead to higher prices on fruit.
Right now it's produce season in California. We need to get out to California. What goes out to California? Meat. We haul pork, we haul beef. Where does it go? It goes to Asia. If it doesn't go, the price of produce is gonna go up even that much more because they're gonna have to pay more for the trucks.
As we've talked about, you're in a really conservative area, very pro-Trump area. Do you feel frustrated in trying to talk to your neighbors about what's going on?
Yeah, it's the biggest thing that frustrates me is that I just feel like nobody cares right now until it affects them. And I don't understand how they don't see that. They're not dumb. These people aren't dumb. And they're not unkind people and selfish people and thoughtless people, so I don't understand why they're okay with it.
Hofer introduced us to her neighbor Rod Olerud, who is feeding cattle and who, for now, is okay with it.
I just think we need to let the president do what he's doing, and we need to just see what's going to happen here and give him a little latitude so that, if it doesn't work, then we're going to have to try something different.
Okay. So you're willing to let the president try some stuff to see?
Yes, to see if this works. Let's give the president a chance, and we'll just have to go from there. Looks like a little boy.
Tommy Baruth thinks we already give it a chance. He's a retired soybean farmer who saw what happened in 2018 when Trump put tariffs on China.
The export market just went right down the tube because these countries could buy them from other places cheaper. Brazil and other countries were the ones that benefited from that.
I read that it stayed that way, that now China buys a lot more from Brazil.
Exactly. And a lot of times those markets don't come back.
Doug Bjerke runs a lawn mowing business. He says Trump's plan will work out in the long term, even if some crop prices fall.
Yeah, the price might come down, but when them people start starving, they're going to come back to the table.
You mean in the other countries?
Yeah, we're a gracious nation feeding the world, and we shouldn't have to without getting something for it.
Rick Ekman says in the 3 days after the tariffs, cattle futures dropped below the point of break even for his farm.
Never had him do this before.
Yeah, he really likes you.
No.
Did you vote for Trump?
No. No, I did not.
Why not?
You want me to be truthful? I think to get to where he's at today, he's stepped on people and he's got no morals, I don't think. I don't like the man. I don't like him.
Why do you think so many of your neighbors do support
I don't know. I guess I don't see anything good about him.
Does it affect the way you think about America?
It scares me.
Terry Nebelsick, a lifelong Republican and retired school superintendent, was very careful in how he talked about the political climate. He's concerned that Trump's push to dissolve the Department of Education will cut public school funds for needy kids, potentially at a time of economic turmoil.
If poverty is happening to adults, children are hurting. And where adults sometimes just have to work through it and make sure there's food on the table. During that time, we have children and adolescents who are forming who they're going to be. And I do think that the public school is a collecting point for people to be able to reach those kids and make sure that they're fed and have medical attention and have their basic needs met.
Again and again, our conversations in this Midwestern nice town came back to character and values.
When Sheila and I raised our children, we taught them to be honest, not try to cheat anybody, to respect. Trump doesn't do any of those things.
Do you find a lot of farmers around here agree with you, or are they fans of Trump?
This is a very Republican state. I think it's too soon for them to say they're wrong.
Ellie, I love the conversations that you are able to bring to us and bring to light. Given everything that we just saw, do the Trump supporters that you spoke to, do they regret their vote?
I get that question so much, particularly from people in bluer states, and again they say no.
Right.
They really put a lot of faith in him. One man described him as courageous, and they said people have told me they're willing to take a serious financial hit to their own personal finances in order to let him do his thing, because they really have faith in him that he's the only one willing to do what needs to be done.
To turn it around. I think that's fascinating that they are willing to say, I'm willing to take the hit.
Yeah.
Take that pain, but how long? That's that big question now. It's great to see you. Thank you.
So, talking about the tariffs, obviously over the last several weeks, we've seen Donald Trump, the president, losing support among voters writ large over the tariffs. His numbers on the economy are going south. He's hemorrhaging support among independents on the economy. But what about Trump voters? How do they feel about all this? One man can answer that question. He just happens to be the one man standing beside me right now, CNN Chief Data Analyst Harry Enton. Let's talk about Trump voters and how they feel. Do they regret their vote?
I mean, this is the big question, right? I hear all these stories, all these articles. All the Trump voters, they regret what they did back in 2024. I'm here to tell you, very few of them regret what they did back in 2024. What are we talking about? Trump voters looking back at 2024. We got a new poll out. The poll was conducted this month. What percentage would change their vote to a different candidate? We're talking just 2%, just 2%. That's not even a wide spot on the road. And then there's this additional 1% who say they would rather not vote. We're talking overall under 5% might or would have changed their vote, Donald Trump voters back in 2024. And then you ask, okay, the same question to Kamala Harris voters, and it turns out the numbers are rather similar. So if there was a repeat, if folks got to be able to redo their vote that they had back in 2024, would the result be any different? I doubt it would be. I doubt it would be, or it would still be extremely close. The bottom line is, for all this talk of Trump voters regretting their vote, in the numbers, it really just doesn't show up, John.
So the stickiness with Trump voters and President Trump in this presidency, how does it compare to his first presidency?
Yeah, okay. So, I was interested in sort of a historical analogy here, does this look similar or different from back in 2017, looking at 2016? Well, in February of 2017, 4% of Trump voters say they'd shift their vote. That's actually slightly more than the 3% this time around. So, you look back, you say, okay, there's these Trump voters who really regret their vote. Historically speaking, they really don't regret their vote. And if anything, the number this time around is actually smaller than it was the first time around. And it's certainly smaller than the number we saw coming out of 2020, of course, after the events of January 6th. So the bottom line is this. If there's some idea out there that Trump voters are going around, man, I wish I had voted for Kamala Harris instead of Donald Trump, the numbers say that is a fanciful universe. It really, for the most part, does not exist.
What about the Republican brand in general? Any evidence that people are, leaving that brand faster than they're leaving the Democrats?
Yeah, exactly. Yesterday we spoke about Trump's approval rating, right? But it's very important to note, nothing cannot be nothing. That is, when you put two folks together or two folks against each other, the results might look different than just looking at one of them. And on this particular measure, which I think is so important, because what we saw in 2024 was Republicans getting a rare lead on party identification. It was a 1-point lead according to Gallup. Look at where it was in an average of Gallup polls so far this year, plus 2 points for Republicans. If anything, the Republican brand has actually perhaps gotten a smidgen stronger, though these are within the margin of error. Very different from 2017, when Democrats held a 5-point advantage. And I'll finally note, this looks very much like the generic ballot trend, which in 2025 looks an awful bit like November of 2024, when Republicans, of course, won and held the House.
We will see if these trends continue, but they are very interesting at this moment. Harriet, and thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend.